Back in November 2001, Bill Benter decided to make one final bet on the triple trio. With more than 10 million possible combinations, this would be the ultimate proof that his model worked. He spent roughly 1.6 million Hong Kong dollars by betting on 51,000 different combinations, and win he did. Benter won the $16 million triple trio jackpot, but he never collected his winnings. As days turned into weeks and no one collected the award, public interest around the unclaimed ticket grew into news headlines. We'll get to why Benter never collected his winnings later in this video. Back then, Bill Benter was a math genius who earned his living as a card-counting gambler. When he got banned from playing blackjack in Las Vegas, he finally turned his gaze to horse racing in Hong Kong. He came up with an algorithm that he thought could accurately predict horse race results. He set out going after a task that almost everyone said couldn't be done. Born in 1957, William Bill Benter grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was a diligent student and studied physics in college. Benter was brilliant at math, but he didn't want to use his skill doing some mundane 9-to-5 job. He'd been captivated by a book named Beat the Dealer, which mathematically proved how blackjack could be beaten through the trick of card counting. So, in 1979, at 22, Benter left college to play blackjack in Las Vegas. When he arrived in Vegas, he was broke. He worked at a 7-Eleven, earning $3 an hour. He would then take his wages and frequented budget casinos like the Westin and Al Cortez. These shabby casinos didn't bother him, as he was excited to see scientific principles play out before his eyes. Even on a good day, Benter would only win about $40, but he didn't mind. He had found his calling. In 1980, Benter had applied for a job at McDonald's when his friends introduced him to Alan Woods. Little did he know, this man would change his life. Alan Woods was the head of an Australian card-counting team that had recently come to Vegas. Woods' impressive tales as a card counter enraptured Benter. But what impressed Benter even more was that Woods pursued card counting with the utmost discipline. His team pooled in cash and divided winnings equally. The more players on the team meant a reduced risk of bad luck wiping out the bankroll, and the friendships within the squad balanced out the solitary nature of the work. Benter quickly joined the team. Within 6 weeks, he started pulling in about $80,000 a year while playing blackjack in Monte Carlo with waiters in dinner jackets serving him. In his own words, he felt like James Bond, and therefore gave up the idea of returning to college. Things changed around 1984 when Benter, Woods, and some others were included in the Griffin Book, a blacklist that detective agencies passed around casinos. This made it nearly impossible for them to keep on playing blackjack in Vegas. They needed to find another game. Woods knew there were giant horse betting pools in Asia, and the biggest of them all was in Hong Kong. Despite Hong Kong's measly population at the time being only about 5.5 million, the capital generated far surpassed the entire US, roughly touching $10 billion annually by the 1990s. In addition to the large capital, Hong Kong also uses a pari-mutuel betting system, where the odds are updated fluidly in relation to the wagers placed by gamblers. Contrast that to the Vegas sportsbook, where the odds are set in advance. The pari-mutuel system generates more money for the winners. The house will, however, skim a commission of about 17% from the pool. This meant in order to make money, Benter not only needed to pick winners, but he also needed to make bets with a profit margin greater than the 17% cut. It's often considered an impossible task to predict horse racing outcomes, given the many uncontrollable variables involved. But the determined Benter is set to find everything he can on horses. His quest first took him to the University of Nevada, where he found a paper titled Searching for Positive Returns at the Track, a multinomial logit model for handicapping horse races. The paper outlined how a horse's race day performance could be predicted by examining multiple variables such as a straight line speed, jockey skill, and size. Benter then taught himself coding and advanced statistics to apply this concept. Meanwhile, Woods left for Hong Kong in the fall of 1984 and sent back a pile of yearbooks with the results of thousands of races. After writing code and studying regressions for almost 9 months, Painter finally flew to Hong Kong in September of 1985. Painter and Woods rented a tiny apartment in a rundown high-rise and got to work. They rarely went out at all, but if they did, it was to the McDonald's down the street. During the racing season from September to July, Painter started running his betting program, but it often produced bizarre predictions. Woods, who had studied the Hong Kong tracks for almost a year, would correct them. Several times a week, they used a telephone account at the Hong Kong Jockey Club to put in their bets, and on race days, they'd watch them on TV. Between races, Painter worked on his algorithm in hopes to keep ahead of a statistical phenomenon called the gambler's ruin. The gambler's ruin describes how a player with limited funds, when betting against an opponent with unlimited funds, such as a casino or the betting population, will eventually go broke, even if the game is fair. The result was that by the end of their first season in Hong Kong in 1986, the duo had lost about $120,000 of their $150,000 stake. Painter would then return to Vegas to look for investment, while Woods left for South Korea to gamble. The two met up again in Hong Kong that September, with Woods having acquired more funds than Painter, and so Woods was ready to recapitalize their partnership in hopes of getting a 90% share. For Painter, that was unacceptable. But Woods was adamant and wouldn't change his mind, and just like that, their partnership was over. For the next 2 years, Painter managed a team of card counters in Atlantic City while he worked on his racing model in his spare time. In September 1988, he returned to Hong Kong with a few $100,000 and was ready to conquer horse racing again. By now, Painter's model monitored about 20 inputs, albeit still being just a fraction of the infinite variables influencing a horse's performance. Wanting to refine the model further, he continued to search for questions and answers, and eventually added variables such as the number of rest days since a horse's last race. The variables proved to be successful. That year, Painter won about $600,000. He had lost a little money in the following season, but was still up overall. He expanded his business by hiring employees and short-term consultants, including gamblers, journalists, analysts, coders, and mathematicians. And to assist him with placing bets, he also recruited English-speaking Filipinos to communicate his bets to the club's telebet phone lines, as they read wagers at a rate of 8 a minute. Painter's big breakthrough came when he got the idea of integrating his model with the Jockey Club's publicly available betting odds, a data set hiding in plain sight. He figured by refining the betting odds with his algorithm, this would make the betting odds even more accurate. He considered this move as his single most important innovation, and in the 1990 to 1991 season, he won about $3 million. His continued success attracted more employees, and among them included a video analyst named Bob Moore. Moore was crucial to the improvement of the model, as he would watch footage of earlier races to identify horses that should have won but were blocked or bumped and were prevented from winning. His strategy worked as a bad luck adjuster and made Painter's algorithms even more effective. In 1997, Painter and his team had an epic winning season and were up more than $50 million, capping off by winning the Jockey Club jackpot, the Triple Trio. Painter's successful run continued as his model expanded to track more than 120 factors per horse. But as the money kept rolling in, his perspective of life changed. He undertook a more active role in the local Rotary Club and embodied its motto, "To service above self." He donated millions of dollars anonymously and visited refugee camps in Pakistan and impoverished schools in China. For the first time, Painter seriously thought about quitting and returning to the United States. It was then, in November 2001, that Painter decided to make one final bet on the Triple Trio. With more than 10 million probable winning combinations, this would be the ultimate proof of his model's phenomenal success. He spent about 1.6 million Hong Kong dollars by betting on 51,000 combinations, but he'd already decided that if he won, he would leave the tickets unclaimed. That's because of the Jockey Club's policy in these specific cases. Any unclaimed money was given to a charitable trust. As you know from the beginning of this video, you know that Benter won huge. He won the $16 million triple trio jackpot, but he didn't collect the prize. As days turned into weeks and no one collected the award, public interest around it was mounting. One South China Morning Post racing columnist wrote, quote, "The ghost of the unclaimed 118 million Hong Kong dollars triple trio is still banging around like an unwanted poltergeist." Outlandish theories began to spread across Hong Kong, while one even claimed that the winner had watched the final leg of the race and died of shock. Finally, Benter sent an anonymous letter to the Jockey Club's directors explaining his intentions, and the triple trio jackpot was spread among various charity funds. After winning the triple trio, Benter returned to his native Pittsburgh. He spread the secrets of his success in multiple ways. He shared his theories with employees and consultants and gave math talks at universities. His academic paper detailing his system, computer-based horse race handicapping and wagering systems, a report, became a handbook for an entire generation of high-tech gamblers. The Benter model, at its peak, factored over 120 variables per horse and brought home an estimated $100 million per season. It's no surprise that even today, many contemporary gamblers use his model or are inspired by it. Today, Benter runs a medical transcription company in Pittsburgh, and while his exact net worth is unknown, he's widely accepted as the wealthiest professional gambler, having made close to $1 billion through betting. He founded the Benter Foundation, which donates towards education, health, and the arts. And over the years, his philanthropy has included donating to the University of Pittsburgh and to the polio immunization efforts in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Africa. Almost 4 decades later, Benter is still betting on horses around the world. And of course, he continues to tinker with his model and add different variables. The latest change being, how much does moving to a new trainer improve a horse's performance? Benter had once remarked, "Gambling has always been the domain of wise guys from the wrong side of the track." Most of all, he's managed to change this perception of gambling, even if it's only for the few who gamble for a living. Click to watch one of these next videos, and let us know in the comment section whether or not you think sports betting is a long-term winning or losing proposition.